Hey everyone, it's Jen. I'm here with another update on my cancer journey. As you can see, I am on my third out of 4 chemo infusions. That's what this little fella is. This is my port. It's connected to a wire. The wire is connected to a fanny pack that contains 46 hours of constant chemo infusion. I spent the better part of yesterday in the hospital getting another chemo cocktail infusion that takes about 4 hours, after which time I went home and I slept. All in all, aside from the nausea and of course from being really exhausted, I would say that I'm doing better than expected. My appetite is non-existent, of course, but I gained 10 pounds in anticipation of chemotherapy, and I've only lost about 5 of them so far, so I'm doing better than expected. So let me just preface this whole video by saying I did not want to make this video, and I wasn't going to make this video, but something has been nagging me to the point that I can't sleep until I get this off my chest. The reason why I didn't want to make it is because I didn't want the backlash, the negativity that is sure to come from it. And also because if you haven't experienced what I'm going to talk about, it's going to sound nutty. However, I made it very clear when I started making these videos that the purpose was for me to get my truth out there. And I said that I was going to be painfully honest, and I don't feel that I can be honest about this journey without touching on how I think I got here. So, let me just say that this isn't about bashing anyone. This isn't about being a victim. This has nothing to do with any of that. This is my warning to people who are or who have been in the situation that I have been in, to take a different path than the one that I took. And we're going to talk a little bit about the mind-body-spirit connection and how they're all intertwined. So I know I've given you a little background about my initial cancer diagnosis. It was 8 years ago. I was 33 at the time, and I was diagnosed with stage 2 colorectal cancer. And the doctors were baffled by it because I didn't have any of the risk factors for colorectal cancer. First of all, doctors don't recommend that you even get tested for colorectal cancer until age 50. So I was too young. I had a healthy diet. I didn't smoke. I was not obese. I worked out every day. Colorectal cancer does not run in my family. I was the first one in my family to have it. So the doctors really were baffled by this diagnosis. So this is where the mind, body, spirit thing comes into play, I think. Now, we've all heard that a positive attitude can contribute to physical healing in the body. If this is true, then the opposite must be true. Meaning, if you are mentally unwell or if you are emotionally unwell, that can contribute to illness in the body. Now, here's how cancer works. Those cancer cells are always around. They're always in your body, and they're looking for a hospitable environment. And your immune system does a really good job most of the time of keeping those cells in check and to keep them from multiplying and becoming tumors. When your immune system is compromised, be it lack of sleep, bad diet, stress, your immune system isn't working as efficiently to kill off these cancer cells, and they have an opportunity to multiply and become tumors. I believe that this is what happened to me. So when I was diagnosed the first time, I was married, and the person that I was married to was my business partner. And I had a kid in middle school, I had one in high school, and I was stressed. And I thought the stress that I was under was normal. But it was not normal because the person that I was married to was a narcissist. And there is a misconception about what narcissism is. So I highly suggest that you take the time to learn about it. It's not about looking in the mirror and feeling pretty and being vain. That is a component, but narcissism is a scale. And on the bottom end of the scale, you have your average typical narcissist, which comprise about 10% of our population. Which is why I say it would behoove you to learn about and understand who these people are. As you move up the scale, you have what we call sociopaths. And they are narcissists who are a bit more exploitive. They're the con men. They're the person that will lie, steal, cheat, and do whatever it takes to get what they want. The further you go up on the scale, you have your psychopaths. And the psychopaths, whereas a sociopath doesn't care who they hurt to get what they want, the psychopaths actually enjoy hurting other people. So my ex-husband presented all of the characteristics of a sociopath. And one of the things that sociopaths are really good at is wearing a mask. And that mask is always one of a family man, a churchgoer, someone who really loves their wife and kids, devoted. They go to great lengths to put on airs to make people like them. And if you met my ex, you would like him. He's very outgoing, gregarious, well-spoken. He's just a nice guy. That's what you would think if you just met him or if you never lived with him. So what he was a pathological liar. He was a con man. He was very reckless when it came to our business, when it came to our family, when it came to our finances. And at age 33, when I was diagnosed, I had been married to him for 10 years. And it was 10 years of every day being hypervigilant, putting out fires that he was starting, anticipating fires, playing detective, trying to decipher all of his lies and where the truth was. And where that put me was in a state of hypervigilance. And I can only liken it to an experience that I had on an airplane as a flight attendant years ago, where there was a time that we were having an emergency and I thought that the plane was going to crash. And of course, that fight or flight response kicked in. The adrenaline started pumping, and it pumped for about 10 minutes, and then the threat was over and we landed safely. But what I remember the most about that is after we were safe and after the adrenaline stopped pumping, I felt more exhausted than I had ever been in my life. And that was after 10 minutes of my adrenaline pumping. So imagine when you are in that state constantly of fearing the worst, of being in fight or flight, of being afraid of what's going to happen next, of being afraid of what your spouse is going to do. You're in fight or flight all day, every day. And what that does is it wears down your immune system. And it wore down my immune system to the point that my body became hospitable to cancer. Now, as you know, I beat cancer the first time. And a few years later, I got divorced. And when I divorced my husband, he had casually told me on our anniversary that he had given me an STD, thankfully a curable one, especially in Atlanta, but that he had contracted it 7 years earlier. and that I was just now getting it. So I knew that was a lie, but I also knew that it was true that he had given me an STD. So at that point I was done. I filed for divorce and went on with my life. I got custody of the kids, so I moved my children and my granddaughter to the city, and he moved in with one of the women that he was cheating on me with a couple hours north of us. So even after the divorce, I had an idea that we would be able to co-parent amicably, that the needs of our children would come before any animosity that either one of us had toward the other. I still didn't understand the depth of the depravity that I was dealing with, even after we were divorced. So he spent the first year after the divorce calling me every day, begging me to take him back, telling me how much he misses his family and he's learned his lesson, and I wasn't buying any of it because at that point I had been lied to every day for 16 years and I just didn't believe them anymore. So after it became clear that he wasn't getting me back, he changed his MO to just destroying me and taking everything that I love away from me. So it started with my dog. My dog was missing for 3 months. Then he went to work on my kids, trying to manipulate them and convince them that even though I had custody and even though he had never paid a dime of court-ordered child support, he wasn't helping me at all with the kids. He went to work trying to convince them that they would be happier and better off if they went to live with him and his mistress. Unfortunately, that did work on one of my kids.